Good morning. So, today I want to talk a bit more about the self that I did mention yesterday. So, you have probably heard that Buddhism says there is no self. I think this can be very confusing for people because, well, we know there's something here. We know that we have got a self that we identify with. So, in what way does Buddhism mean that there is no self? Well, superficially anyway, what it means is there's no fixed self. We can change, and we can change radically. And Buddhism tells us we can do that. We can change so radically that we too can become a Buddha. We can become enlightened if we put enough of the right sort of effort into it, and if we really want it, and if we see through samsara, if we see through the material world and see that it can never be ultimately satisfactory. But of course, no self goes much beyond just seeing that there's no fixed self. Because if we look for some seed within us, some nugget within us of self, we won't actually be able to find something. So, what is it that we experience that we identify with ourself? Well, I think we put a lot too much weight on what we think, on how we think, on our personality, and we don't really see that all that is conditioning. We've been conditioned to be the way we are. As I often say, by our education, by our culture, by our family, and so on. So we imagine that we are something quite substantial, whereas actually there's very little that we can find when we really look for it. So if you think about it, even maybe 15 minutes ago, can you really remember what you were thinking, and was it of any importance? So probably maybe 90% of what we think is very unnecessary. It's just sort of habit that we've got into of thinking about the past, having memories, planning for the future, and so on. And of course, we have to do a certain amount of thinking to live in the world, but probably a lot less than we actually need to. So, Buddhism uses this term emptiness, and it's quite a frightening word for a lot of people, and it tends to suggest some big black hole. Well, of course, emptiness is nothing to do with that. It's really about seeing through the self and seeing how there is nothing substantial. Now, why do we need to do that? What's the benefit of that? Well, I'll come to that in a minute. So it's obvious from our experience that we have a relative self. You're seeing me now here with a body, using words. We interact with other people. We can touch ourselves and feel something that feels pretty solid. So it's obvious that we have a relative self. We do have something. But really, a self is much more to do with what we are attached to, what we're clinging to. And that is our views and our attitudes and our beliefs and what we identify with as a personality. That's what's really ourself, because we can all see that, we get ill and we die eventually, one way or the other. So, we know that we're not permanent. We do realise that. But there's something deeper that we do think is permanent. And, of course, we live in a Christian society, although there's not much left of Christianity in our society today. But, we are nominally a Christian society, and that does run very deep, I think. This idea that maybe if we behave ourselves, we're going to go to some everlasting place. And Buddhism sees things, as you know, rather differently in terms of rebirth, in terms of multiple lives. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that right now. So it's not only us that has an idea of us being a self. Others project that onto us as well. and we project that onto others. So we see people as quite fixed, and this has a lot of dangers because it means that we judge people and we compare ourselves with other people. So how do other people fix us? Well, for example, we're born into a certain family, and within that family we have various roles. Maybe we're the eldest of our siblings and have to take a lot of responsibility. Maybe we're the youngest of our siblings and are treated more like the baby of the family. Maybe we're the intelligent one, or the pretty one, or the unattractive one, or the silly one, or the one that makes us laugh. There's all these different places that we can have within a family, and roles become very, very fixed. And of course, we have to adopt roles to live in society. The role of a parent, the role of a teacher, the role of whatever it is that we do. So all that helps in a way to reinforce this idea that we have of there being a self. So we fix our own self, others fix ourselves, and we fix other people's selves as well, our expectations. So, when people act outside of those expectations, you could say that society rebels a bit. People aren't very happy with us when we act outside of those roles. And this is a sort of, you could say, a conventionality about the way that we live in society. We're kind of pulled into a particular shape, and it takes a lot of individuality to step out of that shape. So these expectations are of normal behaviour, you could say, and normal expectations that we then take on for ourselves. We expect to be happy. We expect, in this society, we expect to get on in life. We expect to be ambitious, or we are expected to. So if we choose to do different things, it can be quite painful because people don't always accept the way that we want to be. So we perpetuate this idea we have of ourselves through habits, and habits are very strong, and it's really good to question our habits and see if they serve us. So even habits which don't serve us in a very obvious way do serve us in some way. So for example, let's say we've got a habit of drinking too much. Well, we might feel dreadful that we do that. We might wake up in the morning feeling ghastly, but something is making us do that. And it's probably some idea we have that it means that we don't have to think, we don't have to experience ourselves, we don't have to be aware. Or maybe we're the life and soul of the party. Maybe we're quite shy and reserved, and when we drink, we're not. Suddenly we feel connected to people in some sort of way. So whatever habits we have, even the worst of our habits, and of course we have many good ones, they serve some function, and it's really good to to contemplate how they serve us, so that we can understand what conditioning we're actually unwrapping. So, as you know, Buddhism is all about training our mind, and it does need training. It's not easy to change habits, and that's why we do need to train our mind if we want to change, because it isn't easy to do that. So, to train our mind, we have the Noble Eightfold Path, and we have the Four Noble Truths, and perhaps I'll talk about one or other of those teachings starting at the next video. That's enough for now. Bye-bye. And that was Tashi making all that noise, I'm afraid. So he's doing a lot of squeaking at the moment. Bye for now.